Since the beginning of time, marriage has been the foundation of society. And one of the secrets of success in marriage is you don't have to marry the perfect person who's just like you.
Yeah, you see, God has created each of us with a unique set of strengths that when celebrated, rather than stifled, can unlock the true potential of your marriage. In strengths-based marriage, we've drawn from more than 50 years of research from the Gallup Institute, combined with over 35 years of experience in marriage counseling, to develop an incredibly exciting resource that can literally revolutionize your relationship and prepare you for a lifetime of passion and intimacy, and we can't wait to share it with you.
That's right. When you learn to recognize and focus on the strengths of your spouse, you'll be able to celebrate what's right about them and value their God-given differences, not resent them. So join us on this journey to explore how implementing a strengths-based marriage can bring you closer together than ever before with your spouse.
Dr. Donald O. Clifton was a forerunner in positive psychology. Through his research, he identified 34 universal strengths that exist within each individual. Working with Gallup, he developed the Strengths Finder assessment, which reveals how our unique order of strengths affect the way we engage with the world around us, influencing our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Thousands of businesses, teams, and churches have harnessed this strengths-based approach to interacting, resulting in stronger relationships and greater performance. So what happens when you apply these same ideas to your own personal relationships, or even your marriage? On this journey, you will discover how to thrive in your strengths, recognize the positive traits in your partner, and develop your own strengths-based marriage.
Jimmy mentioned earlier that one of his number one strengths is achiever. I have achiever at number one also. And what that means is, I just love to get stuff done. I am a list person, okay? I like to make lists. I kind of sometimes make lists of my lists. So you know who you are, you know you're out there. And the best part of my day is when there's little boxes next to all my lists and I can just put those check marks in there. Yeah, baby. That's a good day. You could just buy me a ball cap that says get her done right here and you got me summed up. Like, I love to get stuff done. And it has been this way since as young as I can remember. In fact, what science tells me is that God began forming me this way from the time that I was in the womb. The Bible says that we are formed in the womb, but science tells me that day 45 after conception, already the brain is being constructed and the lines that make up my thinking this way are already being connected. It's ridiculous. I love seeing how God manufactures us in this wonderful way. So what that means is my strength of achiever has been with me since day one. And it feels incredibly normal to me. This is how I think. So when I run off to go get something accomplished, it feels like, shouldn't everybody be doing this? Like, this is how normal people function. And when people don't function that way, like me, I begin to wonder, like, are they completely normal? I'm not sure. You know, I kind of judge them a little bit because their strengths don't look like mine. We got to quit doing that. We got to quit looking at each other and thinking they got to be like me in order to be normal. No. Everybody's got their own strengths, and they make them unbelievably unique. And these strengths aren't just how you think, it's really who you are. So if I have this ability, this strength of achiever, it goes with me everywhere I go. So if I go to play some golf with Jimmy, not as well as he does, mind you, but nonetheless, then my strength of achiever goes with me and it affects the way that I swing. If I'm at work typing on the computer, my strength of achiever is right there and it influences the way I type on the computer. If I'm at home interacting with my daughters or my wife, loving on them, hanging out, spending time together, it affects the kinds of things that I like to do. Listen, what I'm telling you is your strengths affect everything about you. They're not just what you do, they're really who you are. So it affects vacations. It affects the way you like to rest. It affects the kind of books you like to read. It affects what kind of entertainment you love. It even affects what happens in the bedroom. We're going to get to that in a second. But so let's start with some of the others. Okay, vacation, right? So for me, a fantastic vacation is us going to the beach. We get up early because I want to go fishing, and then we want to go swim in the ocean. Then we want to ride on the horses on the beachfront before lunch. Then we're going to catch lunch, maybe do a movie after that, come back to the beach. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Like, we are going to check all these boxes and get all this fun stuff done, and tomorrow we're going to do it again. Because this, we want to suck the marrow out of this vacation and enjoy every element of it. My wife, entirely different expectations for rest, entirely different. What she wants to do is lay down in the sand, let the shiny ball in the sky do crazy things to her skin all day, and tomorrow, let's do the exact same thing again. We are at odds with each other over the way we have vacation, because what feels right to me and what feels right to her are entirely different. These things are motivated by your strengths. They affect the way you think about how you rest. By the way, rest for me is not a passive thing, it's an active thing. I actually like to do, and it's how I recover. Stephanie, on the other hand, likes not to do, and that's very recovering for her. So our strengths influence the way we rest. We were in Barnes & Noble the other day looking for books, and I happened to walk past the section that's got all these business books in them, and there was the strategic category, and I walked over there and picked up this book, and it says, First Things First on the front. And I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And inside, it talks about how you begin with the end in mind. Being a strategic thinker, I'm thinking, this guy is a genius. So I walked the book over to Stephanie to show her this phenomenal find that I've just picked up, and she looks at it, reads the stuff I've read, and goes, oh, you have something else? Totally not interested at all in what I have to offer. On the other hand, I see she has a book in her hand. I said, what is that? She said, well, look, it's all about women and relationships and how they fight. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? That looks like torture. I don't want to read that. Why? Because her strengths are all relational, and mine have to do with executing and strategic thinking. And so that brings me to this final topic. All 34 of our strengths, all 34, they can be bundled into kind of 4 categories that really start to make grouped sense about these strengths that we have. So the first one is an executing category. Now, I don't mean killing people, I mean getting stuff done. So there's 6 or 7 or 8 strengths in this grouping that all motivate us to just kind of get things done. The second category is a strategic thinking category. And this is a group of strengths that lend themselves to the individual, helping them to think strategically. It's just pretty obvious. The third one is an influencing category, and these strengths all are interested in the kinds of ways that they can influence other people. It's sort of the overriding banner that covers those 6 or 7 strengths. And then the final on the list of 34 are your relationship building strengths. All these strengths lend to an individual to be phenomenal in the way that they build relationships. And almost all of my wife's strengths are in that category, at least her top 5 or 6 strengths. So she is an amazing person at building relationships. But what I had not been prepared for was how those 4 categories and the way we're built influences what happens between the sheets. Listen, I'm telling you, I didn't know it could be possible, but it's true. So, without getting too weird, I just want to talk about this for a second and let's see where this goes. So, let's take the first category, executing. In this group are 6 or 8 strengths whose primary objective is getting something done. If you move that idea into the bedroom, I might be interested in getting some things done. I'm just going to let you decide what that means, but I'm very goal-oriented. This is about getting stuff done. I've got a list. I'm going to check some things off. I have an objective. I'm going to push for that objective. If I became too obsessed with a particular goal I'd set in mind, it might become not so enjoyable for certain parties during that window of time. I'm just saying, executing is about getting things done. And you can't check the box until what? Until it's finished. So, there's just a motivation that shows up in the bedroom that's very oriented a particular way if the majority of your strengths happen to fall into that executing category. But what if the majority of your strengths are strategic thinking categories? Then what? Well, then you probably like variety. You like to begin with the end in mind, and you have a very set plan on how you intend to get there. There's no time for deviations. We have got to stick with the plan here. So you might also be quite goal-oriented and have a pattern or a method that you like to use that gets you there. So changes from those patterns might be hard to adapt to, and you might find yourself struggling with that. But your spouse may be able to help you. I do know that if you're a strategic thinker, you like variety. So I'm just going to let you decide how you feel about that. The next category is influencing. Listen, people who love influencing others have all of these strengths that make them feel strongest when they're able to influence the ones around them. They have a strong sense of confidence, and they love to exert their influence over the people around them. You put that between the sheets, and you've got an individual who probably likes the lights to be on because this person likes to know what's going on. Am I influencing this person? Can I see that happening? I got to see that to let me know that this is actually working. So the influencing category brings a whole new dimension into what expectations are in the bedroom and what kinds of performances are in the bedroom. There's probably a good need for variety there too. And then the final category is a relationship building category. And this category is very interested in the relational connection that is present in the bedroom. And so I asked Stephanie about this as I was writing the chapter, and there's a lot more detail in the last chapter in the book. But I said, how did you start an amorous conversation with me thinking that it would lead to the bedroom? She said, oh, that's easy. I would just start a conversation. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? How many times did you shoot one over the bow for me and I didn't pick up on your cues? She said, oh, you have no idea. You have no idea how many times I did that. And I'm thinking to myself, all the missed opportunities that might have been heavenly if I'd have known what kind of cues I should be looking for. Just didn't know. My strengths didn't set me up to know that. If I'd have known hers, I would have known she was giving me some cues, and we could have been able to execute against those cues. Look, I think the point I'm trying to make is these strengths are more than just the way you think. They genuinely affect just about every element of your life. And if you're not aware that that's the case, you will live blind, not just to the influence of them, but to the truly majestic power that they can contribute in your life and in the lives around you. And oh, not to mention the joy that you feel. You know that endorphin rush that we talked about earlier that makes you feel so fantastic when it's playing out? All of that is available. It's all available in your life, in your marriage, and the only way you're going to get there is if you find some mechanism to pull these strengths into your daily language and your daily activities and honor each other as a married couple in that way.
TBN wants you to discover the truths and principles found in strengths-based marriage, and you will begin to see your relationship with your spouse in a whole new way. Call or go online to request this powerful collection today with your gift of $120 or more, and as our thank you for supporting TBN, we will rush these incredible resources to you today. Call 800-626-7454 or visit tbn.org/strongmarriage.
If you're just tuning in, welcome to Strengths-Based Marriage. We have a guest couple with us today. Let's have a look at how their strengths influence their marriage.
Today's couple is Libni and Abrahani Rodriguez from Southlake, Texas. Libni's top 5 strengths are developer, restorative, analytical, input, and empathy. Abrahani's top 5 strengths are responsibility, belief, connectedness, communication, and developer.
So great to have you back. I've been eagerly anticipating spending some time with this couple, and so I want to introduce them to you. This is Libni and Annie. Thank you so much for taking some time to come and spend it with us. Can you start just by telling us a little bit about who you are, your family, what you do? Let's start with that.
Sure, definitely. Actually, I will let my wife speak today if you don't mind.
Call,
Yeah.
Libni. Come on, Annie, give it to us.
Okay, so I'm Annie, and this is my husband, Libni. We have 2 amazing boys,
Yep.
Ages 10 and 7.
Okay.
So it's a fun, interesting age.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a photographer, so I stay quite busy.
Yes, you do.
And
Weren't you just traveling?
I was, which was very interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Libni, how about you?
Sure, I'm a project manager, actually, for Gateway Church, and I
Good.
support the business and accounting department.
Awesome. So you have 2 younger boys. How long have you been married?
We've been married for 11 years now.
7 years.
Yeah.
And the big question, how long have you known your strengths or each other's strengths?
That's an interesting fact, actually, an interesting question. We feel that we kind of known certain aspects of it for a while now as we try to understand one another. But it's good as when the book came out and some of the strength actually came out, we were able to go back and review them and really confirm those what we believe were our strength in essence.
So you saw the strength in each other. You just didn't have a language to be able to communicate it effectively to each other.
Correct.
Did that make a difference in the quality of your communication then?
I felt like a light bulb. The oh, this is why. It gave us a little bit more of insight.
Yeah, more insight, more understanding about how each other
That's
works.
right.
Yeah. So Annie, you've got this interesting mix of strengths, and so that our viewing audience knows who you are from a strengths perspective, I just want to talk about your strengths for a second. So you have responsibility, so you are so reliable, utterly responsible for everything that you say yes to, followed by belief, which means that you have these core values that are very moral and ethically based, and they guide all of your decisions. Connectedness, which means that you can weave a story out of all these random facts and everything kind of links together and it all makes sense for you. You have communication, which means you are very good at conveying ideas, which I think is why it makes you a phenomenal photographer, because a photograph is telling a story and you frame it in such a way as to tell that idea. So it's your communication being used there. And then the final one is developer, just the idea that you love to incrementally bring other people along and make them better than they were, yesterday.
That's correct.
Libni, so is there anything about Annie's discovery of her strengths that stands out to you, something that was revelatory for you when you saw it?
Yes, definitely. And I think one of the main points was her way of communicating and being over communicative, and not necessarily in a female way where they talk a lot, but more of really kind of wanting to portray, this is what I want to do, this is what I envision myself in X number of years, these are some of my goals, and really being comprehensive about it and specific, saying this is where we want to be at X stage of our life.
Yeah.
So really kind of outline that communication aspect.
So it kind of took you by surprise, it sounds like, that she had so much to say and that it was so articulate.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Oh, good. All right, well, let's jump to you. We'll talk about your strengths for a second. Libni, your strengths start off with developer. Just also, like your lovely bride, loves to bring people along incrementally. You have restorative, which means that you see what might be missing in a situation if it's absent, and you have a desire to bring it back to its original glory or its original form. You have analytical, which means you just need a little bit of time just to think some things through and to process all of the pieces that are a part of the conversation. You have input, which means you love to learn and you have an interest in gathering new data and new facts. And then lastly, you have empathy, which really just enables you to emotionally feel how other people are feeling. And so is there anything about Libni then and his strengths that really stood out to you, Annie, or that you were really attracted to when you first met?
I think his ability to love on people and serve people so well, and he's just seeing the best in them and bringing them out into the light. And I love seeing that. And I felt like I was connected to that because I love communicating with people and just building people up. And so to see that, it was like, oh, this is someone I'm interested in finding out a little bit more about.
All right, so when I think about how your strengths group together, you both have an interesting mix where you got 40% of your strengths are relationship building strengths, and you both have that. But then it gets different because, Annie, yours are then have an additional 40% that are executing, like you like to kind of get stuff done, whereas your 40%, Libni, is more of a strategic thinking kind of thing. So you have some elements that tie you together, and then you have some elements that bring distinction or kind of color to your relationship. Has that similarity or difference ever created friction for you at all?
It has. And so I feel like when I want to execute and get things done, he wants to pause and he wants to think about the what ifs, and he's going around it. And I'm about to execute. I'm about to make this decision, and I'm waiting on him. And so that's always an interesting time because I have to get going. I want to move on.
Yeah.
And he's like, we have to take our time.
Just
I
think
still
about
need to do my research on that, and I'm all, and so that's really interesting. I think I'm very structured in that way.
Well, these strengths are so influential in our lives. They cause us to be interested in different kinds of books, in different kinds of entertainment, different kinds of friends. But this is episode 7, and this week we're talking about how your strengths really affect what happens in the bedroom also. And so I'm fascinated to see who starts the communication about what happens in the bedroom and how you do that.
Okay.
Who wants to
Okay.
answer?
I'll let my wife go first. If you don't mind. Let the ladies go first.
Come on, Annie. What have you
so
thinking
funny. Okay, so I feel like I'm the first to start communicating, and I start talking about our day, of what
So
I've
that's how you do
done.
it. You start talking about your day.
Yeah, well, I talk a lot. So I feel like I start about my day because I want him to lean in and tell me about his. And early on, we have 11 years married, so we've learned what not to do, I think, early on, based on our sort of aggravation getting things started. And so we've communicated. And you were resourceful in saying, how about we pick a word that when you want to move forward with this, then and so I want him to explain that.
So when there's a communication that you are thinking is going to become more amorous, and you're hoping that that's the case, this word is the word that confirms that that's the intention that's in
That's the
place.
intention.
This is fascinating.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
come on, you got to
so
give
you
me
need to
the
understand,
goods.
we have 2 kids. We have a 7 and a 10-year-old, and they pick up on everything.
They do.
And we're always having to kind of find a way how to say, hey, we're gonna do something tonight. So one of those words, or one of those key points we found is we're gonna do exercise, right? So I think they're very involved in sports and they're very active. So I think that kind of brings the whole picture together. And there's no miscues. There's no want to say it's safe on the house to say,
Yes.
hey, we're gonna exercise tonight. So that's kind of one of the key phrases that we've come to use, and kind of me as an analytical helps me really catch on when I'm not getting her cues as a communicator.
So you have an ability to move a little faster, and he needs a little help sometimes catching up on what's happening.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've developed some relationship and communication that makes that a possibility.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So from a strengths perspective, I'm seeing how your interest in relationship is where all of this begins. Communication around relationship is where it begins. Obviously, communication for you, because you have communication as one of your top
Yes.
strengths. So you use your strength to send a flag that says, hey, I'm open for business today.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fascinating. So one of you, because of the mix of strengths that you have, is more interested in variety than the other. And I'm wondering if that has an effect in your bedroom activities and why that is.
I don't know why that is, but
Well,
Yeah, I want to understand. I want to understand
Your
that.
strengths is really what I'm saying.
but it's really interesting. I feel like we've grown to try different things, but in a safe environment.
Well, kind of as in our early stages, we come from a pastoral family or background, and one of the things is always we're wanting to safeguard our relationship, our entity as a family, and in the sexual aspect. So we're trying to kind of keep it safe. I want to say updated, young, active, and we try to keep it open and exciting. But in essence, kind of also more on maybe her kind of leading and to say, well, this is what we might do, or we might want to explore.
Yeah.
So in that sense, and I'm not sure if I'm putting it out there, but in essence, kind of we try to safeguard just because we want to keep the entity safe and not lead to allow the options to get into our marriage.
Yeah. Well, I think the surprising thing for this is knowing that that your strengths could have any kind of influence in this particular element of your lives. And it really does. And so, as we're closing today's conversation, I'd like to leave you with these thoughts in regard to this kind of amorous activity, right? Just some ways to bring your strengths into the bedroom. I think if you guys took separate sheets of paper, wrote each of your strengths separately on a piece of paper, and then just wrote some of the kind of between the sheets activity that would speak to that strength for you, it would bring more interest and color into the bedroom. And the net effect of it all is it's clearer communication, right? Yeah. You both know what's going on, and there's a cleaner expectation about where we're going and what's happening. But it's also, and very powerfully, a way to say, I see you. I see what you need, and I love you, and I want to serve you in every way that I can. And so then there's no unmet expectations.
That's right.
You know? So I'll leave you with that one. Thank you so much for being
Thank
so
you.
open.
Thank you for having
and
us
candid with
here.
us.
Yeah.
It was really a joy spending time with you today.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
I love to see stories like that. That's why we do what we do, and an example of the impact these powerful resources can have on your marriage.
Yeah, for example, maybe your number one strength is empathy and your spouse's strength is to be restorative. Being aware of that is so important because it will help you to understand how each of you think. Because while someone who is empathetic will feel what others are feeling, a restorative spouse will see a problem and try to fix it. They both want there to be resolution and understanding, peace and growth, but their perspectives are completely opposite and, if misunderstood by each other, can be cause for some really heated discussion.
But trust me, no matter what situation you're in, your marriage can thrive in every area, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And we want to help you experience that today. So request your strengths-based marriage resources with your gift and discover the principles you need to see yourself, your spouse, and your marriage in a new, amazing way.
TBN wants you to discover the truths and principles found in strengths-based marriage, and you will begin to see your relationship with your spouse in a whole new way. Call or go online to request this powerful collection today with your gift of $120 or more, and as our thank you for supporting TBN, we will rush these incredible resources to you today. Call 800-626-7454 or visit tbn.org/strongmarriage.
I am so glad you spent some time with us discovering how a strengths-based marriage can positively affect the intimacy in your marriage. Teamwork isn't just practical, it can be pleasurable too, and God wants couples to serve and complement each other, and that includes what happens in the bedroom. After all, sex was God's idea.
Next time on Strength-Based Marriage, we'll look at another idea that's good for both husbands and wives. It's the concept of shared control and how traditional roles might play out in the face of our shifting culture's concept of how men and women should treat each other. It's sure to stir up some lively conversation, and I'll hope you join us to see what God has to say about His brilliant design for marriage on the next insightful episode of Strength-Based Marriage, and we'll see you then.